technology. I love it.
All right. So I restarted the recording. We're starting clean. Oh, is my stream? Why is it small? That's weird.
Does it look right? Anyone, can you see it?
It's just a little small,
Signal?
right? It's not. It's not
You
full
can see it.
screen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I say we go ahead and get started.
All right. One more change here, and I'm done. I think now it's better. The stream. It should be.
Perfect.
Well, it's not, but okay. All right, so Buddy will join us in a minute. Okay, let's get started. So today, let's start with we are the Star Atlas Council, the Star Atlas DAO Council, that is composed by the five of us: Buddy, myself, Emperor, Lancer, and Signal. Today is not April 11th. Today is April 17th, so we can fix that really quick.
I'll change it.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect. April
Yeah, I think
17th.
if there was a difference in the presentation, it might have been that Lancer literally just he flipped through it in the editor. When you go to the editor,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
goes
yeah,
full
yeah. I
screen.
know. Yeah, yeah. And he started changing everything. I did try to advance a couple things on the first slides, and then we'll go in editing mode for the minutes.
You got it.
Perfect.
So none of these have changed except Danny's back. Danny's back.
Dan is back.
We had our first official internal meeting with Dan yesterday for this term. So this is good news because he has more control of the role. Michael stepped up and did amazing, considering he's the CEO of the company and he just came in to fill in the place so we could, keep going on. But Dan has a little more control of it, so there's a little more flexibility and he has more information on all the work that got started last term. So on that side, we're good. And then we have the financial update of the DAO. It hasn't changed much from last week to this week. But we can see that we are around, how much is this? That would be about $55,000 of income that the DAO has gotten in the last 4 weeks. 4,616 come from the marketplace fees, $2 from the amazing rental fees, $47,000 from the Starbase crafting fees, which is our biggest source of income, and then the USDC marketplace fees. That they sum a little bit more. Other than that, we have the updates. We still have 2 pips in voting right now. We have the pip number 15 in-person community platform. That is going not the way the author wanted, but we still have more than 5 days left. So there's a lot of time for people to come and vote and see if they like or don't like the idea. Then we also have this PIP is about a in-person community platform where people can organize small meetups, and it's an idea similar to the Iris Bounty, but this would give the infrastructure for a web page for people to organize. And then PIP 16, the Raiden system, is the transition from EVI to his new system called Raiden, and that one is going well for him. Still 5 days as well. So if you haven't voted, or if your PVP has changed since the time you voted, go ahead and visit the govern.staratlas.com and vote for them. Then we have this update. We created a spreadsheet to keep accounting, where we're going to keep control of the PIPs that have been approved, the funds, the public addresses, what's the amount in dollar, what was the equivalent in sent in Atlas at the moment of the snapshot, and the different payment milestones. And so far, the Star Atlas DAO has given 7.2 million Atlas to community initiatives. The first one was the hackathon, the Navathon co-sponsoring, which was 6 million people. So the other million, 1.3 million almost, is being the first part of the PIP number 8. So this is good. This is also a way to keep things transparent with Automata, giving them access to the accounting as well team, so they can follow up on where we are and what's expected to come soon. And we're starting to get better organized and trying to streamline the process so we don't take so long in the future PIPs once they get approved. And there's going to be more details about this that probably Buddy, if he arrives, he's going to want to go over on the process that we're implementing. And then we have our famous console quad. This is completely Lancer's territory, but I added that completion of the DAO payments spreadsheet. Let's see if we have finished anything else. On May 3rd, the PIP markdown and DAO casters and ecosystem media expansion. The DAO casters are still waiting. We wanted to check with the foundation before we move it for voting to make sure that whatever is voted is the final version and we don't make any changes after, like it happened. Well, it didn't really happen with the Iris bounty, but there was a little bit of tension there. And let's see what else. The ecosystem media expansion is just waiting for foundation review. That was sent the end of last week. No, at the beginning of this week, and we're just waiting for the foundation to catch up and give us the go or give us any feedback. Let's see.
Hey, real quick, does one of us have Bodhi muted? He said he is server muted for some reason.
Yeah, he seems muted. I think, this happens sometimes when people are doing involuntary noises. Try now, buddy.
Oh. What?
Welcome,
was
friend.
Was that? Do we have like a somebody from the team here that was able to turn that off for me?
I did it. I turned it off.
Oh.
And virtual's muted too. Why is virtual muted? Well, he needs to be muted right now, but
I think it was because last time there was tacos conversation in the background from a kitchen, which actually made me hungry.
Oh, okay. No worries.
All right, so any other accomplishments? Let's see. Lancer had placed here that Bodhi completed the creation of the social media accounts. That was his goal, completing creation of the DAO payment spreadsheet. The KYC for PIP 8, we also announced that last meeting. We have this is the Saturday, May 2017, Bodhi establishes standard operating procedure for paying Star Atlas PIPs. Okay, this is going to be part of the discussion in a minute. And the financial disbursement protocol for PIP 12. I don't think he meant PIP 12. I think he probably meant PIP 14, which is the next one that has to be processed. Anyway, I'm gonna kind of skip the quad unless anyone wants to make any remark on this, because this is more Lancer's territory.
Yeah, really, it's the upper left hand that, like, the major accomplishments. But did any tips go up for voting this week?
No, we were hoping to have the ecosystem fund, the expansion, the media expansion.
That's right.
But we're still waiting for the foundation.
Right. Okay. No, I think that's good enough for now for accomplishments. I can't think of anything else unless one of the other boys can.
Yeah, just for some insight and clarity, something that we started to adopt this week because it seemed like it was useful or relevant to our process, and you'll remember it from our conversations last week, is we started taking proposals that were getting ready to go up for a live vote and having sit-downs with the foundation and with the team about those proposals as though we were implementing them already, so that we can make things faster to implementation when they actually pass. What we've been doing in the past has been we make sure something's capable of going up to a vote, then it goes up to a vote, then it might pass, and we might be in a situation where we need to review with the team or the foundation on implementation, legality, how we're doing all these other things. We're now starting to do that heavy lifting up front. So it'll take a little longer for something to go to vote, but once it gets approved, it should move much, much faster because all the reviews already been done and front loaded.
Sorry, I
So
was
when you
trying
hear
to.
people talking about it's going through like automata and foundation review ahead of vote, that's new for me. But it seems pretty worthwhile off of some of the delays that we've seen on past measures so far. I just want everyone in the loop on what we're talking about when we say that.
Yeah, and I want to maybe we can all address this. Bodhi's typing right now, but Bohemian's asking about the that spreadsheet and it being public. Our intention is definitely to make this public, but there is some stuff that could be under the NDA, not necessarily NDA. That's what I keep using in my chat with Bohemian, but we just want to make sure there's nothing on here that we're not supposed to be making public. So it's definitely not that there's some black ops project or anything. We have to do our due diligence and make sure everyone is aligned with making certain things public. Would you agree with that, fellas?
Yeah.
I think I was just gonna say I think NDA accounting is a little vague, and I think it's, to be specific, what we're doing is we are letting the authors know if they do need an NDA. We're letting them know the type of documents that they need. We're also going to be the ones to let them know that they need to NDA or not. So, and then basically we're letting them know what documents they need. We're creating the infrastructure for getting them the email address in a trustless way that they need to send those documents to the foundation. And then basically we're kind of there to, basically record keep as far as like, okay, he did his NDA. Okay, great. Check the box. He did his NDA. We're moving forward. That's basically it. We're not like, we don't have access to those documents or anything like that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically we're tiptoeing into this thing, Bohemian. We just don't want to make something public that's not supposed to be. It's not that we're trying to hide anything or anything like that. But we're still working on it.
Yeah, to be honest, when I made a spreadsheet, my thought that it could go public if everyone else agreed. The only, not even the wallet address, I think, is a problem. On the contrary, that would be a transparent thing so people can just, go to step, put the wallet address, and then they could check that the funds were transferred there and that the funds are being used in the way that it was proposed. It would be nice if within the PIP creating process, they would create an account and assign that account to the PIP to be easier to follow up. But we just gotta bring this with Dan again and make sure that everything is good on their side. I personally don't have a problem with making this public, just for view, and we keep the editing rights. But that's a conversation to be had.
Yep.
All right, entonces let's go to the minutes. And I'm gonna start taking these screenshots really quick while you guys can start this topic really quick.
Okay. Yeah, so we started at 3 council members. Shoot. Oh man.
Here we are.
Well, yeah. You want to type? Well, yeah. We don't need 2 of us to do it. Okay, so those are this is the meeting minutes from last time. No, is it
No,
from this one? Did you change this one already?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So yeah, the quad accomplishments, financial update, drum, SAX 2, mission statement, public accounting. Are you ready to start yours, or should we go to Signal for the Dowcaster role?
Whatever you guys want. I'm
Yeah,
taking
just
this
if you're
screenshot
ready,
really
go
quick.
for it. If you're okay, I'll just Signal. Do you want to talk about the DAOcaster role?
I'm sure. At this point, it's kind of out of my purview.
Second time he's thrown under the bus.
Yeah. So DAOcasters essentially DAO-sponsored content creators that are elected by the community. They form a panel, kind of like the council. They do all their standard content creation as well as ecosystem promotion, just trying to grow them, increase users, get us louder and more visible to more audiences. But essentially, just taking a lot of the champions that we've had for years and years who are absolutely awesome, and like a Siggy or a Beyond the Horizon or a Metaverse Explorer or Metaverse Nomads, and really giving them a platform where they're empowered and they have resources that are being provided from the DAO, not only in terms of compensating them for what they're doing, but also giving them mission based objectives and small budgets to do things like giveaways, promotions, fun things that grow the ecosystem and get more people excited and interested in Star Atlas from the outside. Yeah, that's DAOcasters. The name
And
comes from a throwback to an old podcast on Spotify from 2021 called Dowcaster.
An
And
OG.
it was, yeah, a guy by the name of Dowcaster who would do it. And he had all these really awesome episodes explaining Star Atlas, getting people excited about it, talking about the white paper and, all kinds of things going on. And so the title of the role is a throwback to that super OG creator.
And the main reason I brought this back on the agenda, Signal, was for us to comment about it really quick, more than telling the community about it, because it's in the PIP draft side. It was to think a little bit about the process and if we're happy with the way it is, and in case we get any feedback different from the foundation, if we have any plan B or alternatives to the whole process. So the way I was making some notes today, the way I understand it is that the candidates nominate themselves. After we have a list of candidates, we're going to do voting with the system of STV system. So it's a ranking vote, and we'll choose the top 5 content creators from, liked by the community. And then they would start this program that lasts 6 months long, and then going to be disbursed an amount of Atlas and monthly. A good part of it, like 1.3 million, I believe, is for them to create the content, and the rest, the second part, I think, is like 700K for giveaways and community engagement. And they have some rules to follow and some landmarks to do every week. But you also want to have a quarterly, so halfway through the term, a confirmation, a yes or no vote to make sure the community wants to still fund this or fund these specific content creators. So the reason
And mind you, not to interrupt, the only reason that exists at all is to get around 5% funding cap limits. Or not even that. It's specifically that a rule was created. I think Funcracker wrote it into the knowledge base. This was another topic Bohemian was pretty passionate on, but essentially a rule was created that no proposal could go on perpetually in terms of payment. So this proposal creates a role, in our community of DAOcaster with recurring elections and all these other things. And it's meant to be an enduring thing that just keeps happening and reoccurring. We keep electing new people, pushing the envelope forward, figuring out more ways to do content creation and promotion. But it would have broken that rule because you're not allowed to request for something to happen that reoccurs beyond 1 year. So I included a vote mechanism in which essentially a vote is held once a quarter or something like that to continue funding the program. And that takes care of both 5% limits of funding as well as avoiding recurring payments that go on forever. At any given moment, the community could decide, like, hey, you know what, this program's run its course, or we don't really want to do it anymore, or we do want to keep doing it, and it's up to them to decide if it keeps going or not.
Okay, so is
Just
it?
to clarify,
there any-
Uh-huh.
there was a consensus. Funcracker definitely was the one that added it onto the sheet, but we all agreed as council that we needed something like that because it was just a matter of we didn't want to make it difficult to like shut down this like gravy train. Basically, like you have to vote to stop something. It would be better to be a little bit more conservative and have to have them reapply rather than have to vote to stop it.
Yeah, I was only saying that's the only reason that language is in there. I do agree it adds some complications, but that's for compliance with current standards.
Yeah, that's nice how you did that for sure.
So
And yeah, open everything. I mean, and if you guys had a better way to do it, you'll even see on the proposal it's written Star Atlas Community and Signal. So like, whatever you guys think is the best way to implement it, I'm more than happy.
yeah, so okay, so once we vote to approve this PIP, in theory, even though the program is 6 months, it's something that we want to keep repeating. So you were thinking about making another vote just to make sure that that's something that the community is still engaged with?
Exactly. Just make sure that we're not funding something perpetually that people don't want.
And
The community gets its own off switch once a quarter if it wants it.
okay, I just think every 3 months is a lot, but I understand why you're doing it. I thought it was more to check that the community content creators that were elected were still fulfilling the role and were still in the agenda.
No, it would have been much better, and I really would have liked it if it was every 6 months to match the terms of the DAO casters. Like, hey, do you guys still want to keep doing this? If yes, all right, let's begin the process of readying the election. And, for DAO casters, to do the whole thing over again. Where that comes into issue is half a year of funding for the program, I think, is greater than 5%. It's greater than $10,000. So if I didn't have that vote quarterly, if instead I tried to make it halfway, it would violate another rule set forth for how PIPs are supposed to be structured. So I would like that timer to be longer as well. I think quarterly is probably too much to have to vote to sustain the program. But in that case, we'd either have to alter budget or we would have to change something else about the PIP to make it in compliance. Because essentially the program can't run for 6 straight months without the community agreeing to continue it, just for budgetary reasons.
Right. Okay.
So
I
assuming we
understand.
do the quarterly for the budgeting reasons, and then and you said that the elections would be every 6 months. Am I correct?
Yes.
So would it then be so it would be basically the PIP needing to be repassed for the funding every every quarter, and the voting would be an additional PIP, or would it just be added in on every other one?
Yeah, it would just be the election.
Okay, so it's basically going to be the funding PIP every quarter, and then a separate election PIP every 6 months. So we got effectively 6 per year.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
And again, that's just budgetary requirements. I think right now, if the entire program ran for a year, it's worth like maybe 23K. So it's not like it's that much over the 5% or the 10 grand or however we allocate it. But if it was every 6 months when the election would occur, you'd run over on budget. So the other way to do it is I could scale it down, meaning we could make it so the entire thing runs for less than 20K a year. There were just conversations all over the place about how do you encourage content creators, how do you make sure that they feel properly incentivized to do all the things we're going to need them to do. I mean, we saw Raspy's proposal, Recently as a content creator. Granted, he's doing a lot. He's including a documentary short film in there, but that was 24K for like one creator. And this is 20 to feed five for an entire year.
Is there a way that I'm just thinking, because if the Atlas Treasury, if Atlas were to raise in price, or there were to be a boost in the Atlas and the Treasury, I mean in the ecosystem fund, that would expand, it would take away that problem of, okay, we have to do this every quarter, and you could
Right.
align it. Is there a way that you could kind of add something like that in where, I mean, it makes it a little complicated because it has to be well over that mark to where you're confident that it's still going to be the case.
Yeah, I think it creates just as many complications.
In there. I wonder if there's something in there that you could add, because it could go the other way too. Like you might not get even a quarter out of it. So I wonder if
the
maybe...
idea was the payments being linked in Atlas was meant as an inherent incentive to the DAO casters. If Atlas starts rallying and doing really well, you could attract some really, really high-level content creators and promoters, because all of a sudden it's actually looking really worth it to participate in the program. And if Atlas isn't doing very well, I would certainly look a little bit to our team that's out there promoting us. and naturally, their pay adjusts down as well if Atlas goes down. So I kind of like the fact that it follows token performance.
Yeah, and honestly, like me, I'm gonna jump in. One thing I do like about having the 3-month, the quarterly deal, we can adjust something at that point. We can adjust it to whatever we want at any point in those 3-month periods, and then same thing if there's we're not going to know, we're not going to fix all of these details. We kind of just have to do something. And I think it's a good jumping off point personally, because we can sit here all day and night and talk about everything, but I think we just got to start, and this seems like a really good place.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about it, but I do agree. It's complex. It's not as simple as just sending some money to a single wallet and it's over. It's a whole program.
Is that good enough for you, Drum, for what your questions were?
Yeah. No, I was curious because I wanted to make sure I understood, and actually I understood a little different the purpose of that voting. So the only comment I can add, I like it, I love it, I like the idea. I think our content creators deserve these chances, and there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of work. I would love, I'm not going to start mentioning names here to play favorites, but even in the other languages, there's some really good content creators. I know in the Spanish community there is. The only thing I am ready to get feedback from the foundation if it's maybe they think it's too many votes or it's too convoluted. So in that case, my only suggestion would be just to make it every 6 months, 2 votes of 1 week each. One for the continuation of the program and one for the STV for the candidates. That's the only idea that comes to my mind. If it seems like 6 elections is too much.
Yeah, it sounds good. If it's capable of being passed that way, I would love to write it that way, where it happens right before each election. So right when you would get ready to elect people again, you can decide as a community, do you want to continue this program? If yes, awesome. Let's get the election started.
Yeah.
If no, okay, it's done.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, so that's why I was, that's what I was saying earlier, is if it's the funding, the limitation, and that's if that's the reason that you are needing to do it every quarter, maybe there's a way you could write it in the PIP to where it's like, okay, well, if we don't need to do it if we don't need to do it every quarter, like if Atlas, if the ecosystem fund is in a place where we can do this without needing to vote every quarter and instead do it every 6 months, then we can do that. I don't know if there's a way that you can. I can't think of a way that you could write that in, but that was just the thought I had too. Is you might be able to account for both of those scenarios, the one that Drum just described and the one that you're trying to keep the trying to actually make it incentivizing, you might be able to do both,
Yeah, it's tricky. It definitely, I've noticed going through this particular process and this particular one, every solution to a problem can create a new convoluted problem.
Yes.
You didn't anticipate.
Yeah, it's
So
like
I'm
fixing a bug that breaks another bug that breaks 5 bugs.
exactly. So I'm very cautious at this stage, meaning I know everything that's in there and why it's in there. If I get specific clearance from Foundation, if they go, hey, we're willing to accept the language for simplicity's sake of making this every 6 months to extend funding, I would love to make that change. I just don't want to make those types of changes. I want someone to tell me how to change it. Put it that way. Like
Right.
I want Foundation or someone like that to review it, give guidance, say, okay, well, here's where it's problematic, or here's what needs to get changed, and here's how we would personally do it. Because if I just change things arbitrarily before a review, I might change things and create problems that weren't there. So
Yeah.
yeah, super interested to hear council and Foundation and Automatus take on it. And again,
Yeah,
just so everyone's clear on this, the reason you see this conversation happening the way that it is, where it's kind of me talking to council and council talking to me about this, is because I'm recused of my duties in this individual proposal. The moment I wrote a proposal draft as a council member, I stopped participating in the process. So when this subject comes up like DAOcasters, I'm just a guy who wrote an idea up.
Yeah, you're a DAO policyholder.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. I think it's ready to be approved. I just want to check the feedback from Dan to see if we need to change anything, and if we don't, we don't. What I don't want to avoid is what happened with the IRIS bounty. That even though it was introduced as a council PIP, Brian did prepare the draft, and he was not happy that we had to add some details that were not part of the original PIP, even though the PIP was so open-ended that they fit perfectly in. But we need to get feedback from Automata because they are the ones handling all the process. We just curate for the community.
I'd rather us do that work first than try to do it after we pass something.
Yes. All right, that was basically it. I am happy with what we got. I don't know if anyone else wants to make any comment about that from us 5.
Nope, I think we're good.
All right, we were talking.
You want to move back to yours?
Yeah, we were talking about mission statement. Is that what you meant? Okay. Yeah. We were talking the other day in our internal chat about it, and I came with a concept. Signal came with a concept. I think they're both valid and good. And it's just, this is nothing really too serious, too official. This is to put on a slide here in our tag ups. But I think it's nice to have it's not a value list, but it's like a purpose. That this is our purpose, and this is how we understand our purpose. And I think that's a good statement to take out. So I had made this one that I put here to steward the Star Atlas DAO ecosystem through transparent governance, community-driven decision-making, and efficient operational processes that empower all stakeholders to shape our collective future. It's a little long, but I think it stamps well what we're trying to do, and I think it can perdure over time because, as the DAO evolves and gets more independence and starts working on its own, I think it's going to maintain the same qualities.
And correct me if I'm wrong. We need to clarify that this is the Star Atlas DAO Council mission statement, not the DAO itself, just for us 5. So there's no miscommunication here.
There you go.
Perfect. We are not making decisions on behalf of the DAO. We're not making decisions on Autonoma's part or Star Atlas's part, just us 5.
Yeah.
So that being said, I do like it. It is a little long. but I mean, it says everything. We should read signals too.
Yeah, so that's I
I'll read
was
it
gonna
for you,
go to that
signal.
one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read it since I'm talking already. To safeguard quality and safety, empower community ownership, and steward transparent, sustainable governance. I didn't necessarily like the safety part. I get it. I think drums fit a little more, but I like the lengths of signals. And I think signal, correct me if I'm wrong, you just kind of chat
Yeah,
GPT that up,
it's
right?
not really, it's not signals. I didn't take a stance on it or even suggest it as like this should be our thing. I just shared. I took the I took the sustainable governance framework that Automata that published on the DAO and what it seeks to be, how it intends to operate, what it hopes to accomplish. And I literally just fed that into ChatGPT, did a deep research on it, and said, okay, using only what's inside this document and what this document is telling you that we're here to accomplish, how would you define, the mission statement for DAO Council? And then it gave me that, and then I shared it with the group. I have no hard stance on mission statement, and
Yeah,
I think drums is great.
me too.
Mine mine was created in an attempt, if nothing else, like being unbiased. Like I didn't even write that. That's not even mine. That's if anyone else fed the framework into like GPT and had it analyze it, then asked it, okay, now give me a mission statement that you think would define what Star Atlas Council is trying to do here. It would come up with that. So
Yeah,
that
I
was the
changed it
only
on I changed it on the slide from signal to GPT.
perfect. So that was the only advantage of it was kind of like immutability that like no one person actually wrote it or created it. Something independently analyzed our governance documents, and came up with that. I think the quality and safety comes from the sustainable governance frameworks. Like it puts a ton of emphasis on how safe everything has to be and a ton of emphasis on quality standards for everything that's associated with Star Atlas. So
Yep.
I think that's where it pulled those as early priorities.
so funny enough, the first time I read yours, the two words safe, quality and safety, like rubbed me wrong in the sense like, well, that's not really what we're all about. But the more I read it, the more I like it because it's more concise. And when I think about the DAO, I think the first one probably represents it better. But when I think about the DAO Council mission and our function here, I think that safekeeping and quality are quality and safety are two important things that we handle with the P process and with the payment system and with the whole infrastructure we're creating here for this. So again, the more I read it, the more I like it. I think they're both valid, and we shouldn't spend too much time in public discussion on this because that they are all good options, but I just thought that it's important to have an identity and represent it in a phrase and have it out there and maybe get it challenged. We have a couple community members that are very into the governance and I love to explore and dig a little deeper. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think quality and safety actually do apply a lot to what we're doing. Like Buddy and I have been working with regarding the process of payments and how to acquire those. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we keep safety in our head, and when we're reviewing PIPs, we keep quality in our heads, and we are empowering the community and ownership, and we are trying to make it transparent. So I think it's really good too. I think I like both kind of the same at this point, to be honest.
You know what? I might make a proposal here. If all five of us come up with our own and then do it in our office Discord, and then we just vote on it, and then we can let people know, or we can just put it on the slide.
Sounds good.
Because yeah, this is all good things, but
Yeah, and nothing
yeah,
about it has to be immutable. Like a council
right.
could come in, in another like 7 months from now and they could have their own mission statement. Right? Like it's nothing to really get that wrapped around the tire on, in my opinion.
Oh, we could change it every week if we want.
Yeah, it's just our North Star internally for us.
Yeah. I think we should probably move on to at least Bodie's. Mine keeps getting pushed down the road, which I'm gonna have bump it up in priority next week if we don't get to it. But Bodie's, I think it's kind of important. At least say, do this stuff out in the public for some of these options, for these little nuances that we're finding. Bodie, do you want to go over yours in a kind of? I mean, we've all heard it, so you don't have to um, go too into detail for us, but maybe give a quick overview, and then we can chat about some of the challenges.
Yeah. So
If
when
you're
it
there.
comes to when it comes to facilitating the payments, kind of like we described earlier, we're not really taking down any like personal information or anything like that, but we are helping to bridge the gap between the foundation and the authors. Like I said, we're giving them, the authors, the email address for the foundation if they need to KYC. We're checking to see if the author needs a KYC, because sometimes it's needed and sometimes it's not. And then we're informing the author of whether or not they need that KYC. So we need to have some procedures in place for that, because there's a lot of it's crypto. We don't want to commit to a process that incentivizes imposters, right? If we're gonna just by default say, okay, we're gonna DM you with all the details, then that kind of opens the door for somebody to pretend like they're one of us and try and get like personal information from an author and be like, oh, this is the KYC process, send me your seed phrase and I'll put the money in your account or something. So we're just trying to basically look at the different potential um, weak points like that. That's a fairly simple one that a lot of people know about, but there's others. There's so many different little things that can happen. Some are genuine mistakes, some are just downright nefarious. Some could be even the author being nefarious when it comes to payments. This is kind of in a way, we're not really dealing with some sort of on-chain mechanic. There's a degree of trust here. We're reaching out to an author. We're saying, hey, what's your wallet address? Okay. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can so that we're taking as much risk out of that process as possible. And, we're basically archiving it's basically just a lot of due diligence.
Right.
And since we've already
do
only done, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you have any like? I think all of us are on the same page with basically everything you're doing. Is there anything you need from us as a group to move forward and actually write it down and make a document for us all to approve? What do you need from us? I think we all like it.
The last thing is because I just found out that we need to be the one to send them the email with Theo. They were the ones I just reached out to the other day. That's why we need to get we're waiting for Santi to give us hopefully a channel here on Discord so that we can have this entire discussion in a trustless way where they just get given a role and then all the information is there. Because if that is going to change the protocol quite not a ton, but it would definitely change it pretty significantly. If we have to go through DM versus through a channel,
Correct.
It's definitely going to have it that you still have to do all the checks and balances, but the way that you process those checks and balances is like vastly different.
Yeah, I think part of the process that what we were thinking about was keeping anything that looks sketchy out of the way. So DMs is just not the best way. So this way, if we create a process with a channel where we can assign a specific role to the author so they get access to it. They see all the information. They see where the email is because they send the documentation for KYC directly to Glenn for him to check. It's great. The Automata team can also see everything. There's a few of us there that we can see anything. So there's no possible way to turn things around and pretend things didn't happen or that happened different or anyone to impersonate us because we're in an official Discord server channel. We have our roles. Nobody else is going to have a counsel role, and the other guy also needs the author role, and we assign that through the PIP process. So it makes everything transparent within the team. I don't think those channels are going to be open to the public because there's some confidentiality, and it's up to each author to decide if they want the public address out or not. Because right now it's not a requirement. But that was basically
and ideally,
the thinking. Yeah.
Ideally, the information between authors that the authors would, like for example, if really those discussions shouldn't even necessarily be open between the authors, even if they have access to that channel. That's why I was suggesting that we use like private threads.
Yeah.
So that there's multiple reasons for that. I would say the main reason is that when they go to that private, I guess call it channel, it's just a clean landing page that has all the information, and it's not this like basically this chat room where you have to go to the pinned message to see all of the step-by-step guide. These are the documents you're going to need. This is the foundation email. We won't DM you, stuff like that. That when you go to that page, it'll strictly have that, and then each author will have a private thread. So it'll keep that page for the authors nice and clean, regardless of how many private threads are there.
Yeah, and I was one of the things I was curious about too, or concerned, or whatever question was, when the next author comes in to that, they would have access to that information from the previous person and the previous one and whatever.
No, that's what he explained, that they would be private threads.
Okay.
So the moderators, we can see them, but they cannot see between our authors. They cannot see each other.
So the private thread in the private channel.
It's a forum.
Right. So basically, the general public won't have access to that page, and it wouldn't really matter anyways, because the only thing that they would see is this page that says, "Welcome to the whatever," and this is the email address. These are the documents you're gonna need. That's all it would say. For an author, that role will give them the exact same page, and then it'll have one comment, basically, is what you can think of it like, which is a thread, and they click on that thread, and it opens up a chat window on the side. Threads are a little bit unique in the way that they are structured. So you'll click on that, and on the right side, there'll be basically a chat where it's like, okay, this is what you're gonna need. So a conversation would be, okay, what's your wallet address? They send the wallet address. I would send them a very small amount of SOL just to verify and say, okay, did you receive that? Basic stuff, but that's what they would see.
Cool.
And then so it's always going to be super clean for them. They would only see their one comment. And for the council and for the team, they would see that landing page, but then they would see a list of every single thread underneath where they could go in and look at all those conversations, which essentially gives us not only an archive, but it also creates, there's many eyes on each one. So it does everything we need it to do. Yeah, I like it. I think it's great. And it sounds like everyone else does too.
Because we are learning this from PIP 8, because that was the first one that got funding. And this process has been too long. We need to improve it a lot, and I think this will speed things up. And once they get approved, we ask them for the KYC information, and they send it directly to Glenn. He tells us that everything is good, and then we send the money. It should take a week, no more than that. But we'll see.
What else do you need from us, Bodhi?
That's really it. Because like I said, if we have that versus not, it's gonna change. It's not gonna change the risks. It adds a couple more risks, but it's going to vastly change the way that you actually have to like navigate the way that you're accounting for those risks. So we really need to get that channel, and once we have that, it's really, I mean, the rest will just fall right into place. So I'm ready to move forward on that, but we definitely need to know whether or not we're going to have that channel, which I
we
don't
just
see
need to
why
talk to
I hope.
Santi. Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Nice.
All right. Cool. So we have 5 minutes. We can start my my discussion. If you actually, Drum, if you scroll down to 35, I want to create an RFP to create some tools. And I'll be curious. I would love anybody's input, either from the council or anybody in the public, because I don't know what I don't know. I wanted your guys' feedback. So like I want to create some AI prompts. I would love to do like a daily or weekly Discord TLDR, maybe a initial vetting tool for pips. That one's probably lower on the priority list for sure. I just see in the chat, but archive the Discord discussion somewhere. I would love if we had like the governance, at least the governance archive in the what you call it, in the knowledge base, and then the grading rubric is a little different. But we haven't really talked about creating some of these tools. I don't know what they cost. I know earlier in the week there was discussion about hiring 2 developers, and it's like 100 to 200,000 a year, and like that doesn't work. But like creating a deal to create like an AI prompt, like I put that. I would love to do a recap, like that podcast thing, but I don't have the right prompts. I would love somebody. That's what I'm asking Bohemian. I don't know how much this is going to cost, but that's what an RFP is for. Because none of us know what it's going to cost. We can all guess all day long. But do you guys have any feedback?
Yeah, and it varies, because if it's an RFP and we are asking the community for help, you might find people willing to help and not charge too much. Just make it worth their time, or make it worth not taking another job, but without trying to help as well. I think the most difficult part so far has been to understand what we have access to and what not, because we currently don't have any access to the govern page of Star Atlas, and we don't know if we're ever going to have. We know, I confirmed yesterday in our meeting that we do have a domain that is being worked kind of for us, but it's for the DAO. It's not for the council, but we might get a space there for the council, and then we may be able to implement. Once we have a server and we have a web page, none of this is rocket science. All these are things that you just gotta pull from blockchain and program some easy tools, and set some parameters. So I don't think this is gonna be too hard. The important thing is to know exactly what we have, and this is a great start. And we can even start, visualizing how we want that to look, and then we can create those RFPs. But again, we need to know if it's within our grasp, any of these web pages and spaces, or if they would authorize us to do our own council, web page with tools and things.
I think we can. I think we could do our own web page if we want. I just don't want to reinvent a wheel. But some of the how much is it going to cost? I don't know. Quindar, somebody could volunteer to create an AI prompt, but I want to put out there what we need in that prompt, and then put it out to say, hey, is somebody willing to do this for free, or if not, how much would it be? And I agree with the bounties thing too, Bohemian.
I have to admit that the AI part is very tricky. Very, very tricky, because people can first of all is based in a credit system, where you have certain allowance of credits before you have to pay more to get access to that. And how do you control people towards what they can ask, and what stops someone to come and just use the AI for another reason? And the second part of that is like, how willing is the people to do the whole PIP process openly in a public tool instead of, you know, in their own computer in ChatGPT? So those were things that we discussed last term, and we ended up deciding that it was not worth the money and the time to do in AI, and it was probably more effective to create a prompt like Quindar was suggesting, and just, you know, paste it, and that will give you certain results that are pretty much controlled. But that's the only part that I
Yeah.
see that is very tricky, the AI side. But I'm not an
Yeah.
expert, so
And
I
I
might be
guess,
missing easy solutions for that.
yeah, me too. So I guess for anyone listening or whatever, I would love if automatically we owned a tool, we the council, that automatically read, you know, the certain channels on the Discord, that automatically archived it in text, and then at a certain time every week it automatically read that text, did a TLDR, and then it automatically fed it into that notebook LM that does the audio podcast, or you know, a program that automatically made a short video TLDR. So I guess that's my picture. All that stuff can be done manually by a person, but I have no idea what it would take to program. Yes, the bots are taking over, to do that automatically for us. And I don't know what I don't know. You know, I just wanted to kind of get that public conversation out there. So if anybody has more knowledge about that stuff than me,
I think there's
Well, the
100
just
people that could do this within our community alone. None of this seems too
yeah,
complex. This is all, you know,
right,
basic stuff that.
yeah, and yeah, and I wanna end up owning it. I don't want to be beholden to, and we all there. Well, there's some stuff in this community that has just happened recently that you put your faith in either a person or even a, like, my gosh, imagine when Discord goes public and something happens, like if something happened, I don't like having that control. In the less centralized control, the better. So if it was like archived somewhere and we had full control of it. But I don't want to beat up this subject anymore, but if anyone's super interested, I would love to talk nerdy technicalities so I can get those RFPs written, so we can get it out there. And if the RFPs come back after we put them out at $0, hell yeah, that would be great. But yeah, we don't
Well,
have to talk about this anymore.
one thing I will say that might end up working out. It's not exactly the most structured, but it would be relatively easy. Is if we were to take the time to um, create an instructional type document that would educate, you know, say if you want the council to be, you know, have, you know, just so that it continues to exist. If we can create a document that would inform the council on how to download a local language model, which would be, you know, like, because I run an AI on my home computer. I don't know how to automate the Discord aspect, but you know, if we were to be able to figure out how to do that, or maybe somebody could help us, maybe they know exactly how to do it. There's probably a language model out there that's optimized for it that you can download onto your computer for free. You know, these tools I'm sure are out there and exist, and in a way that also avoids that issue of the tokens and having to pay for a subscription. If we could just invest time into getting those instructions, you know, put down and open to anybody, so that if you know, if it kind of fell through, if somebody stopped doing it, or if the council's changed, then somebody else could just follow the step-by-step guide and pick up where they left off. I think that could
Yeah.
be a viable solution.
Yeah, I think there's potentially a lot of different solutions. I want to automate it because, you know, we are a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So that's the lens I'm looking at it through. But yeah, maybe we can chat about it next week a little bit more in depth. But I wanted to get that seed planted and get my, my vision out there publicly. So if anyone knows anybody that wants to help,
Well,
write an RFP with the right language.
While Emperor
Go ahead.
spreads his seats to the audience, we can transition now to office hours. So
Yep.
we also open
Yep.
microphones to everyone here. If you're an author or you have an idea or you have questions for us, please unmute yourself and jump in. I'm going to stop the
Yeah,
recording.
I think Rapsy is here, right? Did you